And we're talking WSL. I'm delighted to say Rachel O'Sullivan of Girls on the Ball podcast is with us, as is Kathleen McNamee of Coigig.
Hello.
How are you?
Hiya.
Where do you want to start? Do we start with the long, hopeful punt from Katie McCabe that turns into one of the season's most ridiculous assists? Is that the best place to start?
Certainly can start there. I mean, I wasn't expecting that result at all, and I think the goal kind of summed up how much Arsenal really did just like scrape through past City. I didn't think they were going to get it at all. I felt bad for Ciara Keaton afterwards. She was like very, very upset, but like she has had a pretty outstanding start to the season so far, considering how young she is. She's only about 19, and like definitely wasn't the sort of player that I think anyone expected to come through and become City's starting keeper. But obviously Ellie Roebuck has been off the scene a little bit this season. Still not totally clear what's going on with her. And I think a lot of people have a lot of questions. She posts like some cryptic Instagram photos and stuff every so often about what's going on with her. So it's hard to know.
So she's not injured?
I don't know. It's not like there's been no official injury kind of announced or anything. But yeah, a tough one to take for such a young goalkeeper.
Arsenal really needed this victory though, right? Because the season was kind of careering out of control from their perspective, Rachel, if they'd lost that game.
Yeah, I think, an absolute minimum of a point was necessary from that game. And also just to show that they can beat the top dogs, that they're still part of that top four. So getting that win was hugely important. You have to factor in as well, they had a penalty saved. They could have been 2-0 up, which just would have been so against the run of play. When the first goal came, it was a huge shock. I'd been going to another match and watching Man City just kind of dominate. And suddenly the notification comes up that Man City have let a goal in, and that's been Arsenal have scored. So yeah, it'll be huge for them. It's going to be interesting to see how they come off the back of it, because last minute results haven't really been the spark we've expected them to be. So it'll be interesting to see how a result against Man City will kind of kickstart them, I suppose.
So the quality of the performance wasn't great, notwithstanding the fact that they've beaten City.
Yeah, I mean, Jonas Eidevall seemed pleased enough. He said that they hadn't started well, that, the first 15, 20 minutes, they were kind of slow to start. But, I think maybe they knew that City were going to have more possession. They probably looked at their performance in previous games and known they were going to be up against it. So I guess you can look at that and say, he was surprised that they were being considered the underdogs going into this. And to be honest, I think they were. People were expecting Man City to win this. They'd had a better start to the season. They'd a better end to last season. And Jonas Eidevall was a bit put out that they were kind of being considered the underdogs, given this is 4-4 wins for Arsenal at home against Manchester City. But they were underdogs. So there will be that element of he will be pleased that they've come out with a win, because realistically, as Gareth Taylor said, they were robbed. I think that maybe that was a bit extreme from Gareth Taylor, but he was not very happy post-match.
I think Eidevall is kind of similar to Arteta in a way, where like he gets really upset and annoyed whenever the team is viewed as the underdogs, and to an extent I can understand it sometimes when you look at what like the team that they have on paper. But considering the start of the season that Arsenal had, and the fact that they have been like completely inconsistent, whereas City have probably been the most in form team in the league with how they have played so far, it wasn't like that big of a thing to say that, like, in every prediction I gave, I said that City were going to win this one by 2-1, so I technically got the scoreline right, just the wrong way around, which is fine as an Arsenal fan. But this is the thing that really confused me about when Arsenal gave him the contract extension at the time that they did, because I was like, when you look at the squad that's there, you're like, yeah, they definitely should be performing better. What's the issue then? And a lot of the time the issue is some of the in-game management and how players don't seem to actually know what they're doing when they're on the pitch, and there's like pieces of paper being run onto the pitch to tell players what to do and stuff. I know Emma Byrne in particular gets very annoyed about that, but it doesn't seem like the team is being prepared in a way where it's like, okay, if they swap to a back four or a back three, this is what we do to our team, or this is how you move a certain player onto another player so that you can get the best out of the team. It just seems like they're...
So you're not buying it?
No.
Okay. They're getting away with it a bit?
Getting away with it a bit, I think.
Because of the quality of players.
Because of the quality of players, and because Katie McCabe is probably having the best season of her life at the moment. Particularly in some of those earlier games, she really, really dragged them through, I think.
Okay, we've probably started with the Arsenal situation because of McCabe, but obviously the big news over the course of the weekend is that the Chelsea manager is leaving at the end of the season. And the assumption is that she's becoming the new USA boss. There are some rumours that it might not be that, but that's the best and
It's
biggest
pretty
job in world
much,
football.
yeah, no, it's pretty much confirmed in that like every major reporter in the US has sourced information about it, and every major reporter in England has the same information. So it's just kind of a TBD. I think one of the things that they were waiting for was that they hadn't smoothed out all the kind of personal details and stuff on their side, but the fact that Chelsea released the statement and said she was going to a national side.
A bit like Louth announcing the arrival of Mickey Hart.
A little bit. I mean, it came pretty much out of nowhere. There had been no run up to it. No one had expected it. She had always been a name that was in line for the US job, in that she is one of the best managers in the world at the moment. But also, there was some talk out of the US that they didn't want to wait until like the end of our season, so like next summer, for a manager to come in. They wanted someone to come in before then, so that the expectation then kind of shifted to the likes of Laura Harvey or someone else. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be really interesting to see what Chelsea do and where they go from here.
So Emma Hayes as the new USA manager. Let's start with that before we get to Chelsea, Rachel. Is this the right job for her at the right time, do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. While it came as a surprise, the timing of the announcement came as a surprise. You know, we'd had conversations at home here last season thinking, I don't know, maybe is this her time? Is she kind of going to go and look for a new challenge? And I think as you are so successful as she is in the domestic game, new challenges are going to arise. She's going to want to do something different. I think had she won the Champions League, you could have almost put your house on the fact that you want to go and do something else now. But I think the timing was very, very surprising. Yeah, I think it makes sense. I think she's a great person for the job. She's an out and out winner, which is what the US will want. And she has experience coaching in the USA as well. So she will have an idea of the mentality and what it's like to be a coach over there. I think it's going to be a really exciting marriage between the two of them. I think other national teams will be maybe a little bit worried seeing her, step over that side, and it could be a very exciting time for the US. But I still think she should have come to Ireland. So I'm raging.
I think we all had that like 30 seconds when we saw the announcement and that she was going to a international side. You were like, baby. I also thought Susie Rack from The Guardian made a really good point in that, like, obviously taking the US job is massively intense and that there's massive expectation, but you don't have that like week to week grind of doing a club team. And she's had like a lot of personal stuff over the last couple of years. And like sometimes I look at how her record has gone and I'm like, how are you still standing? You know, she lost her dad really recently. She had to have the emergency surgery. You know, when she was pregnant, there was just so much that went on in her life that I can understand her being like, new challenge, fresh start, different.
Biggest gig in world football in many ways.
Many ways, yeah. And also she's worked with a lot of the younger US players. You know, she just brought Mia Fischel over. She's Kat Macario. So it's going to be interesting to see how she does, because we know her as a club manager and the international setup is very different. But as Rachel said, I do think she is probably the best person for the job. Beyond maybe Laura Harvey, I would have been quite interested to see her in the role.
Things have potentially changed somewhat now, but if you go back 2 World Cups, it did seem like USA and England was going to become a significant rivalry in modern football. So how will English football fans feel about Emma Hayes managing the USA? Is that a thing at all?
No, I mean, they'll just want to beat them. I don't think it'll be like a massive thing. Those of us who've been following her for years will be pleased to see her do well. And, it'll be great to see her succeed over there, but you're not going to want her to succeed against your team. So it's that kind of, it'll be an interesting dynamic to see her on the touchline at an international window. To see England against the USA will be so tasty. But yeah, I don't think there's going to be too much, animosity or anything like that.
I hope they're already lining up the Wembley friendly just so we can get like a little taster of it, and we don't have to wait 4 years until the next World Cup where they may possibly face each other.
Can we talk about Courtney Brosnan before we wrap up here? She's made the number 1 jersey at Everton her own. There was, at the start of the season she didn't have it, but she has had it very quickly, and it looks like maybe this was the plan, and she responded very well to being dropped, or whatever happened, and she's now nailing down that position. Is that fair?
Yeah, I think Everton need an absolute solid goalkeeper this season, because I think they're losing the defenders they did, Ricky Sivek and Gabby George, losing Gabby George so late as well in the transfer window. Natalie Bjorn was injured as well this weekend. That's the area of concern, I think, for me, for Everton. So to have Courtney Brosnan stepping up the way that she is, Sophie was at that yesterday, and I was just getting messages just being like, Courtney Brosnan, she's unreal. What a keeper. Like, she was absolutely keeping them in it. And you love to see it because her name should be out there. She is arguably one of the best in this league. And she's showing that. And it's difficult when you've got a club that are happy to kind of rotate keepers. Like, that's not an easy thing to manage. So for her to now be getting consistent game time and playing the way she is brilliant.
I think you rotate goalkeepers when you're not sure, and then when you get sure, you stop rotating.
Yeah, maybe, but also like Everton should know at this stage what they have in Courtney Brosnan. You know, they offered her a new contract in the summer, and then they signed another goalkeeper, and there's no reason to be uncertain about Courtney. She has been very stable in the league anytime she's played, and she's done that with coming in and out of the team. And Everton have just always had this weird thing of rotating goalkeepers and not keeping people in place for like a steady amount of time. So I don't know what would have bred the uncertainty, because she was showing, even when she wasn't playing for the club, she was showing for Ireland that she's, you know, one, as Rachel said, like one of the best and one of the most consistent goalkeepers in the league. She totally got rid of all those like mistakes that were in her game that we saw like pre the World Cup qualifiers. So
maybe that's in a manager's head or in a club's head, and you've got to work a long time to get over them.
Yeah, maybe, but like as well, you know, Courtney talked a lot about, like when we were going into those World Cup qualifiers, about how much she had worked with the coaching staff at Everton, and particularly like the defence and goalkeeping coaches, and how much they had benefited her and given her the confidence and really instilled in her a belief that there was a world-class goalkeeper in her. She just had to, you know, work on certain elements. So
maybe it's just competition has spurred her on to this level of where... Go on, sorry, Rachel.
I think so. I was going to say Emily Ramsey is a very good goalkeeper. And I remember when I saw her play last season, because I'd be like, why is Courtney not there? And then she'd pull off these saves and you'd be like, okay, there's some serious competition there. And you're kind of seeing it through a lot of teams in the league. They're bringing in, you know, top class goalkeepers, not just one, but two. And for Chelsea, maybe five. Like, you know, so it is a particular position that goalkeepers seem to be benefiting from that serious competition. And perhaps that's what's given Courtney another edge.
One last word about Jess Ziu making her comeback. We've been waiting for this for a long time, but it's great to see her back, and obviously the sky's the limit for her, Rachel.
Yeah, I asked Rianne about that yesterday because she did make her an appearance as a sub, and she said that Jess had been raring to go for a few weeks now, but it just hadn't been quite the right time. I'll be honest, I was surprised that she came on in the match that she came on in. You know, I was a little bit surprised at some of Rianne Skinner's substitutions, to be totally honest. They were losing 3-2, but you know, an exciting player like that to bring on to hopefully give you a bit of a spark. And I'm just thinking about Ireland and seeing these players coming back from injury. I've been desperate to see her come back. I was there when she got the injury because I was so excited about her signing and coming to play over here. So yeah, great to have her back, and hopefully it gives West Ham something else, because they don't have a huge amount of depth. And I think that's maybe becoming a little bit evident when they're in games where they're not winning and they need something extra. So hopefully that's something Jess can give them.